It is possible to be thankful every moment, every day. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and stability. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and stability.
Hi, and welcome to Tell Me What Happened, the podcast that features people from all walks of life talking about real events from their childhood and how those events impacted their lives. I'm your host, Jay Rehak, and I love listening to stories from people's childhoods, which also help me understand who those people are. Tell Me What Happened is sponsored by Sidelining Publishing, publishers of quality books, including Susan Salidor's children's book, I've Got Peace in My Fingers, available worldwide wherever quality books are sold. Tell Me What Happened is also sponsored by LaughSaver.com. Visit LaughSaver.com and record your laughter. LaughSaver.com will keep it for you, now and forever. Your family will appreciate it. It's free and it's easy to use. That's LaughSaver.com.
All right, let's get to it. Today I have as my guest a self-love coach, Kaelin A. Kaelin is also the host of the podcast, Dear Loving Universe. Welcome to the show, Kaelin.
Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I look forward to hearing your story. Are you ready to tell it?
Yes, I'm very ready.
All right, Kaelin, the way it works here is I'm going to hand the microphone over to you, and I will try my best not to interrupt you. At the end of this, I'm going to ask you how you believe what you're telling me has impacted you as an adult.
Okay, thank you, Jay. You know, this is a very unique experience, and I really appreciate that. And just so the listeners know, I have no notes in front of me. This is straight and raw from my heart. So I'll just start off. When I was 3 months old, my mom abandoned me. And this is the story that I want to tell. So it's less of the experience necessarily that I went through, but more of an absence of what I went through. So my mom left me when I was 3 months old, and I had a Hispanic nanny who basically raised me alongside with my dad. But my dad is an entrepreneur. He's a medical doctor with his own office, and he's amazing. And don't get me wrong, let's just start off with, I do love both my parents very much, but this is just the experience that I went through. So my dad was working on his business a lot, and I would go home with my nanny, and I really called her my mom. I really considered her my mom. I loved her. I love her. I still love her a lot, but she wasn't really my mom. She didn't give me a sex talk. She never taught me how to love myself. I actually got sexually abused when I was about 5 years old, when I was supposed to be in her care, but she was across the other side of the house. And, you know, so there was definitely factors that led to me having low self-confidence and emotional independence. Growing up, fast forward to middle school, I had really bad, challenging acne, and my body started growing through puberty faster than the other girls. So I was bullied for having acne, and I was also slut shamed for just having boobs and a more developed body than the other girls. And so I didn't have a support system. I didn't have my mom there in my life to tell me it's okay, to hold my hand through it all, or to tell me anything. I had to teach myself how to put on a tampon and how to put on a pad. And so this phase in my life, or at this stage in my life, I had no self-love whatsoever. And it was really the starting points of seeking outer validation. But at this point, it wasn't necessarily toxic yet. Fast forward to high school, I completely sought outer validation. And it led to a point of drugs, sex, alcohol, illegal things on not just the weekends, but every day. And I had the worst friends. And, I'm not talking about just one occasion. I'm talking about like cycles. I get addicted to drugs and alcohol and these things and one substance, let's just say. And then I realize I need to make a change, make a little bit of a change, think I'm going to get my life together now. And that works for a little bit. And then I fall back down again. And so my high school years were really difficult because I really sought outer validation and I didn't have a guiding light. I never had a mom to necessarily teach me how to be a woman, how to love myself, and how to respect myself. So then after that, when I was in about 17 years old, I reached a lowest low in my life where I had 2 friends that overdosed and passed away. I totaled my car, and my relationship with my family was just absolutely in the dumps, and that's generous. And so I genuinely knew that if I stayed on the path that I was on, I was going to die. And I knew that my future would not be bright, and I knew that I needed to make a change. So it was really scary, but I packed up everything that I had and I moved in with my grandma. And when I moved in with my grandma, I remember the driving there and I was so like, it's like this whole concert of emotions. But I remember thinking to myself, I don't know what I'm going into, but I just know that it's better than where I'm coming from. And the past was so painful that the only way to get through it was to look forward than to look backwards. And so I focused on the future. I focused on myself. I got clean. My grandma's house was about 40 minutes away from where I was living before. So I was able to have some space and distance from the drugs and the toxic friends and even my family and stuff like that. So that I was actually able to have that space for myself. And I remember that first few days were probably some of the most painful days of my life. And that was really when I had my spiritual awakening. Yeah, I was in such immense pain that I decided wasn't really even a decision. I just didn't know what else to do. So I just started asking God for help at this point. And then I started to meditate. I started to read. I started to focus on school and bettering myself. And I actually started to get better. And after that, after I started to get better, and I attribute a large part of that also to spending time in nature and going to the beach almost every day. I decided that I wanted to start a blog and a podcast. I wanted to start it because I knew that if I could help myself get better, then perhaps sharing my experiences and things I've learned along the way could help people. And so ever since then, it's just been an amazing journey, and it's taken me down to a career of life coaching. And I realized that I want to use my experiences to help people for the rest of my life. So that is my story in a nutshell of how my mom abandoning me when I was a baby gave me a life purpose.
And it's so painful. I mean, I just imagine kind of going through childhood feeling that way. And of course, you're talking about being abused as a 5-year-old as well and everything else. But I love stories of resurrection. I guess your grandmother sounds like she played a pivotal role in your life, but also this sudden awakening and realizing, and the idea of being a self-love coach. I'm a big fan of that idea, by the way. I teach high school students, so I do believe in the importance of people loving themselves. So do you think that your childhood experience, clearly it's led you to the blogging and then also the podcasting and the idea of trying to help others to self-love? Do you feel as though it's still an evolving story? I mean, do you feel that you're at a point now that, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say total healing because that just doesn't sound like the right words. but where you feel a certain balance that you feel like you're not going to slip into any self-destructive behaviors anymore, or
Yeah, I
impact
think that's
now?
a
I
great
guess that's the
question.
question.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually, I think I've learned and I've grown from the experiences of finding outer validation, because at this point in my life, I had gone through so much pain that I had to learn that inner validation is the only form of sustainable validation.
Yes.
And so I realize now that only I can give myself that validation, and I don't need to seek it from anywhere else. So in that way, I feel I'm complete and balanced, and I won't have to ever go out looking for anything, because I truly am actually happy in my own presence. And
That's great.
but I am human, and so there are waves, ups and downs, and balances in my life. I'm not perfect. There are times that I slip up, but then every experience that we ever go through is a learning experience. So I've come really far in my journey. At this point, I can honestly say that I'm grateful for my mom and my dad and my nanny, and even the people who have necessarily done me wrong in the past and attributed to my trauma, because they've also given me a life purpose and helped me get to where I am and helped me be who I am today.
Wow. And so you have a blog that you've maintained for how long have you maintained that blog?
I actually started blogging and I blogged for about 8 months, but I stopped about 6 months ago. I think I just got a little burnt out because I was doing one blog a week, which is kind of a lot. And now I focus on my podcast, and I've been getting really good results from that. But yeah, I have about almost 70 blogs on my website, dearlovelyuniverse.com. And a lot of them you can read about my high school experience, being sexually abused, and lessons that I've learned from my life. And if that intrigues you in any way, I highly recommend you take a look.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you telling us your painful childhood stories. I am sorry that you had to go through it. I'm happy that you feel a sense of life purpose as a consequence of it. But whenever I hear painful experiences of young people, I always think, I just wish they didn't have to actually go through it. But you sound like you're definitely on the other side of all of that. And I look forward to listening to your podcast. That's Dear Lovely Universe. Is that right?
Yes, Dear Lovely Universe. You can find me on any of your favorite streaming platforms.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for talking with us, Kaelin. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Jay.
All right, that's our show. I'd like to thank Kaelin Vu for sharing her story with us. I'm still sort of in pain thinking about it, but she sounds like she's found a purpose that's helpful for everybody. I'd also like to mention, if you'd like to be on the show, contact me. If you have a story to tell, I'd love to hear it. And then finally, our sponsors, of course. I'd like to thank laughsaver.com. Go to laughsaver.com and record your laughter. We'll keep it for you now and forever. It's free, and your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and probably a lot of friends will thank you for it. That's laughsaver.com. Of course, I'd also like to thank Sidelining Publishing, publishers of great books, including Scott Suma's timely work, Don't Act Like the President. Now I'm going to end this show, as we often do, with Susan Salidor's classic, Every Moment, Every Day. Available on Spotify, BTW. Ask Alexa to play Susan Salidor. So until next time, this is Jay Rehack, asking you all to stay safe out there and try not to hurt anybody.
It is possible to be thankful every moment, every day. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and stability. civility. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and civility. It takes beauty and the wisdom to see it everywhere. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and civility. It is possible to be thankful every moment, every day. It takes practice and humility. It takes vision and civility. It takes practice and the wisdom to see it everywhere. It takes practice and the wisdom to see it everywhere. It takes beauty and the wisdom to see it everywhere.
It is possible to be thankful every moment.